Jake Martinez stood at attention in the cargo bay of the USS Liberty, his dress uniform feeling tight around his shoulders. The Marine sergeant had been in plenty of tough spots before, but nothing quite like this. Today, humans were meeting aliens for the first time in history. The ship hummed with nervous energy. Through the thick metal walls, Jake could hear the crew moving around, preparing for the most important day in human history. Ambassador Lisa Carter walked past him, checking her tablet for the 100th time that morning. Her hands shook slightly as she reviewed the protocol notes. "Remember, Sergeant," she said without looking up, "we are guests here. The Zephyrians have agreed to this meeting as a courtesy. One wrong move, and we could be looking at a war instead of peace." Jake nodded. He had heard this speech many times over the past week. The Zephyrians were a warrior race, standing over 7 feet tall with blue-gray skin and sharp features. They controlled a large section of space near the Kepler system, right where humanity wanted to expand their colonies. Captain Steve Morrison's voice crackled over the intercom. "All hands, prepare for docking with the Zephyrian flagship. Diplomatic. Team to the airlock in 5 minutes." Jake's stomach tightened. As head of security for the diplomatic mission, he would be going aboard the alien ship. His job was simple: protect Ambassador Carter and the other diplomats. Do not start trouble. Do not make any sudden moves. Do not give the aliens any reason to think humans were a threat. The docking process took 20 minutes. Jake could feel the gentle bump as the two ships connected. The airlock hissed as it pressurized. Then the door opened and Jake got his first look at a real alien. The Zephyrian waiting for them was massive. His skin was the color of storm clouds, with intricate tattoos covering his arms. He wore what looked like ceremonial armor, decorated, with symbols Jake could not read. When the alien spoke, his voice was deep and rumbling. "I am Sub-Commander Veltar. I will escort you to the ceremony hall." Dr. Karen Williams, the team's language expert, had worked for months to program the translation devices they all wore. The small earpieces picked up the alien words and converted them to English almost instantly. Still, Jake noticed the alien's mouth movements did not quite match the words he heard. They followed Sub-Commander Veltar through corridors that seemed too big for humans. Everything was built for beings much larger than people. The walls were covered in more of those strange symbols, and Jake could smell something in the air that reminded him of ozone after a thunderstorm. The ceremony hall was enormous. At least 50 Zephyrians stood in neat rows, all wearing similar ceremonial armor. At the far end of the room, on a raised platform, sat the largest alien Jake had ever seen. This had to be Commander Thaxel, the leader of this particular ship, and the one they had come to meet. Ambassador Carter stepped forward and began the greeting they had practiced so many times. She spoke slowly and clearly, following the script Dr. Williams had prepared. "Great Commander Thaxel, we come in peace. From the planet Earth, we seek friendship between our peoples and hope to find common ground for our mutual benefit." The commander stood up from his chair. He was enormous, easily 8 feet tall, with scars across his face that spoke of many battles. He began walking down from the platform toward the human delegation. "Humans," he said, his voice echoing in the large room. "We have heard much about your species. You are young, you are small, you spread across your star system like insects." Jake's hand moved toward his sidearm before he caught himself. The words were not friendly, but they had been warned that Zephyrian culture was very direct. What sounded like insults might just be their way of speaking. Ambassador Carter kept her diplomatic smile in place. "We are indeed a young species. Commander, we hope to learn much from civilizations as advanced as yours." Commander Thaxel continued walking closer. The other Zephyrians in the room began making low humming sounds. Dr. Williams had mentioned this might be part of their ceremonial process, but it still made Jake nervous. "Your kind wishes to expand into our territory," the commander said. "You ask for worlds that we have claimed for generations. Why should we not simply destroy your ships and take your homeworld as tribute?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Ambassador Carter's smile flickered for just a moment before returning. "Commander, we believe there is enough space in the galaxy for all peaceful species to coexist. Perhaps we could discuss arrangements that benefit everyone. The commander was now only 10 feet away from their small group. He raised his arms above his head and let out a loud roar. The other Zephyrians joined in, creating a sound that made Jake's bones vibrate. Then Commander Thaxel lunged forward. Jake saw the massive alien moving toward Ambassador Carter with what looked like attack posture. The commander's clawed hands reached out toward the woman Jake was sworn to protect. Time slowed down the way it always did in combat situations. Jake's military training took over. He stepped between the alien and the ambassador, wrapped his right arm around the commander's thick neck and applied the rear naked chokehold he had learned in basic training. His left hand grabbed his right wrist, creating a triangle of pressure around the alien's throat. Commander Thaxel was much stronger than any human, but he had not expected the sudden attack. Jake locked his legs around the alien's waist and squeezed with everything he had. The commander thrashed and tried to grab at Jake, but the angle was wrong. Within 30 seconds, the massive alien went limp and collapsed to the floor. Jake rolled away and drew his weapon, expecting the other Zephyrians to attack. Instead, something very strange happened. They began cheering. The entire room of alien warriors erupted in what could only be described as celebration. They made excited clicking sounds and stamped their feet on the metal floor. Several of them approached Jake, but not with aggression. They seemed to want to touch him like he was some kind of celebrity. Ambassador Carter stood frozen, her face pale with shock. Dr. Williams was frantically checking her translation device, trying to understand what was happening. Jake kept his weapon ready, but the alien seemed more interested in congratulating him than fighting him. Commander Thaxel stirred on the floor and slowly sat up, rubbing his neck. When he saw Jake standing over him with a weapon drawn, he did something completely unexpected. He smiled. "Kethvor," the commander said, and the word did not translate. The other aliens repeated it like a chant. "Kethvor, Kethvor." Dr. Williams's eyes went wide as she worked with her translation equipment. "I think," she said quietly, "we may have just made a very big mistake, or possibly the best decision in human history." The ride back to the USS Liberty felt like the longest 20 minutes of Jake's life. Ambassador Carter sat across from him in the shuttle, her face red with anger. She had not spoken a single word since they left the Zephyrian ship, but her eyes said everything. Dr. Karen Williams sat next to Jake, frantically working on her tablet. She had recorded everything that happened in the ceremony hall and was trying to figure out what the word Kethvor meant. The Zephyrians had used it over and over when they looked at Jake. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" "Ambassador," Carter finally spoke as they docked with the Liberty. Her voice was quiet, but Jake could hear the fury underneath. "We were supposed to establish peaceful relations. Instead, you attacked their military commander." Jake kept his mouth shut. He had learned long ago that sometimes it was better to let officers get their anger out before trying to explain. Besides, he was not sure he could explain what had happened. One moment he was protecting the ambassador, the next moment aliens were cheering for him. Captain Steve Morrison was waiting for them at the airlock. His expression told Jake that he was in serious trouble. Behind the captain stood Corporal Danny Rodriguez, Jake's best friend and fellow Marine. Danny gave him a worried look. "Sergeant Martinez, you are confined to quarters pending investigation," Captain Morrison said. "Ambassador Carter, Dr. Williams, please report to the briefing room immediately." Jake handed over his weapon to Danny and walked toward his quarters. He could hear other crew members whispering as he passed. News traveled fast on a ship, and everyone probably knew by now that he had choked an alien commander during a peace meeting. His quarters were small, just a bed, desk, and storage locker. Jake sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. He kept replaying the moment over and over. The commander had moved toward Ambassador Carter with his arms raised. It looked like an attack. Any soldier would have reacted the same way. But what if he was wrong? What if the commander was not attacking? What if it was part of their ceremony and Jake had just started the first war between humans and aliens? A soft knock came at his door. "Come in," Jake said. Danny Rodriguez entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Jake and sat down, at the desk chair. "So," Danny said, "I heard you wrestled an 8-foot alien and won." Jake almost smiled. Danny always knew how to make light of bad situations. "I think I might have just doomed the entire human race." "Or," Danny said, taking a sip of his coffee, "you might have saved it. Did you see how those aliens reacted? They were not angry. They were excited." "That is what I do not understand," Jake said. "If I attacked their commander, why were they celebrating?" Before Danny could answer, the door chimed again. This time it was Dr. Williams. She looked tired but also excited. She was carrying her tablet and had several pages of notes. "Jake, I need to ask you some questions about what happened," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "The word they kept saying, Kethvor, I have been trying to translate it for hours." "Any luck?" Danny asked. "Some," Dr. Williams said, "but I need to understand exactly what you did to Commander Thaxel. Can you show me?" Jake looked confused. "Show you what?" "The move you used. The way you grabbed him. I need to see it again." Jake stood up and gestured for Danny to come over. "It was a basic rear naked choke. You wrap your arm around the neck. Like this," he demonstrated slowly on Danny. "Then grab your wrist with the other hand. You squeeze here, on the sides of the neck, not the throat. It cuts off blood to the brain." Dr. Williams was taking notes frantically. "And how long did it take?" "Maybe 30 seconds. He went unconscious, and I let go immediately." "Perfect," Dr. Williams said, her eyes bright with discovery. "Jake, I think I know what happened. The word Kethvor does not have a direct translation, but it seems to mean something like worthy opponent or honor bringer." Jake sat back down. "I do not understand." "The Zephyrians are a warrior culture," Dr. Williams explained. "Everything they do revolves around combat and proving strength. I think what you did was participate in some kind of test." Danny leaned forward. "You mean they wanted him to attack the commander?" "Not attack exactly," Dr. Williams said. "But I think the commander was challenging Jake to prove himself. When Jake successfully subdued him without weapons, using only physical skill, it earned their respect." Jake felt a small spark of hope. "So I did not start a war?" "I do not think so," Dr. Williams said. "But we need to be sure. I have been going through their cultural database all day. The Zephyrians have something called the Kethmar, which seems to be a ritual combat test. They use it to determine if other species are worthy of respect." The door chimed again. This time Captain Morrison entered, followed by Ambassador Carter. Both looked serious. "Dr. Williams," the captain said, "what have you learned?" Dr. Williams quickly explained her theory about the Kethmar ritual. As she spoke, Ambassador Carter's expression changed from anger to confusion, to something that might have been hope. "Are you saying," Ambassador Carter asked slowly, "that Sergeant Martinez accidentally participated in their version of a respect test?" "That is exactly what I am saying," Dr. Williams replied. "And he passed. No alien species has successfully completed the Kethmar in over 300 years according to their records." Captain Morrison sat down heavily. "So instead of starting a war, Martinez might have earned us their respect?" "More than that," Dr. Williams said, checking her notes. "I received a message from the Zephyrian ship an hour ago. They want to meet again tomorrow. But this time they specifically requested that Jake be present." Jake felt his stomach drop. "They want to see me again?" "Not just see you," Dr. Williams said with a smile. "They want to formally recognize your achievement. Jake, I think you might have just opened the door for humanity to join the galactic community." Ambassador Carter looked at Jake with new eyes. "Sergeant, it appears I owe you an apology, and possibly the thanks of our entire species." Jake was quiet for a moment. "So, what happens now?" Captain Morrison stood up. "Now we prepare for tomorrow's meeting, and this time we let you do what comes naturally." As everyone filed out of his quarters, Danny stayed behind. "So," he said with a grin, "how does it feel to be humanity's first alien wrestler?" Jake laughed for the first time all day. "Ask me tomorrow. I have a feeling this is just the beginning." The second meeting with the Zephyrians was different from the first. This time Jake walked into their ceremony hall knowing what to expect. Commander Thaxel stood waiting for them, but now he wore different armor. This set was pure silver with gold decorations, much fancier than what he had worn before. Ambassador Carter walked beside Jake, but she looked nervous. Dr. Williams had spent all night studying Zephyrian customs, trying to prepare them for whatever was about to happen. Captain Morrison had decided to come along this time, wanting to see the situation for himself. "Remember," Dr. Williams whispered as they approached the commander, "in their culture, direct eye contact shows respect. Do not look away when he speaks to you." Commander Thaxel stepped forward when he saw Jake. The big alien placed his right hand over his heart and spoke in his deep voice. "Jake Martinez of Earth," he said, "you have proven yourself in the Kethmar. You have earned the title of Kethvor, which has not been given to an alien species in 312 of your years." Jake looked directly into the commander's large yellow eyes. "I am honored, Commander Thaxel." The commander smiled, showing sharp teeth. "You understand honor. This is good. Come, we must speak of important matters." They followed him to a smaller room with a large table. Several other Zephyrians were already seated, all wearing the same fancy silver armor. Jake noticed that they all had different tattoos and scars, probably showing their ranks or achievements. "These are my council members," Commander Thaxel said. "They have heard of your victory and wish to meet the human who mastered our greatest warrior." One of the council members, a female with intricate face tattoos, leaned forward. "Tell us, Jake Martinez, how did you learn the blood stop technique?" Dr. Williams quickly translated the phrase. "She means the chokehold you used," Jake thought for a moment. "We call it a rear naked choke. All human soldiers learn it in basic training. It is a simple technique." The Zephyrians made excited clicking sounds. They seemed impressed that humans taught such techniques to all their warriors. "Simple," he says, the female council member said to the others. "Their entire warrior class knows the blood stop." Commander Thaxel raised his hand for silence. "Jake Martinez, your victory has brought great honor to your species. But with honor comes responsibility." "What kind of responsibility?" Captain Morrison asked. The commander looked at the human captain, but addressed his answer to Jake. "Once every 50 of your years, the great races of this galaxy gather for the Grand Assembly. It is where we discuss territory, trade, and peace between worlds. The next assembly begins in 10 of your days." Ambassador Carter leaned forward eagerly. "Are you inviting humanity to participate?" "Not humanity," Commander Thaxel said. "We are inviting Jake Martinez." The room went quiet. Jake felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. "Me? Just me?" "The Kethvor speaks for those who earned the title," the female council member explained. "You proved human worth through combat. Therefore, you have the right to represent your species at the assembly." Captain Morrison looked confused. "Commander, surely you understand that Sergeant Martinez is a soldier, not a diplomat. Ambassador Carter here is our official representative." Commander Thaxel made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your diplomat did not face me in the Kethmar. Your diplomat did not prove human strength. The galaxy respects only those who have shown their worth through action." Dr. Williams was frantically taking notes. Jake could see her trying to work out the cultural implications of what was happening. "What exactly would I have to do at this assembly?" Jake asked. "You would sit with the representatives of 437 known intelligent species," another council member answered. "You would speak for humanity's interests. You would vote on matters that affect entire star systems." Jake felt dizzy. "I am just a Marine sergeant. I know how to fight and follow orders. I do not know anything about running galaxies." "You know honor," Commander Thaxel said firmly. "You know strength. You know when to act and when to show restraint. These are the qualities that matter in the assembly." Ambassador Carter cleared her throat. "Commander, perhaps Sergeant Martinez and I could attend together. I could handle the diplomatic aspects while he provides the military perspective." The Zephyrian council members exchanged looks. Finally, Commander Thaxel shook his head. The invitation is for the Kethivore alone. This is how our traditions work. To change this would dishonor both our species. Jake looked at Captain Morrison, who seemed as lost as everyone else. Sir, what should I do? Before the captain could answer, Commander Thaxel continued speaking. There is more you should know. The Grand Assembly will not just be about making friends and trading goods. Several species have territorial disputes with areas where humans plan to build colonies. Dr. Williams looked up from her notes. You mean our expansion plans? Yes, the female council member said. The Crystal Alliance claims the Proxima system. The Void Touched have ancient rights to the Wolf Star Cluster. If humanity wants these territories, Jake Martinez will need to negotiate for them. The weight of the situation hit Jake like a falling rock. He was not just being invited to some meeting. He was being asked to negotiate for humanity's future in space. If he made mistakes, his species might be trapped on Earth forever. How much time do I have to decide? Jake asked. The assembly begins in 10 days, Commander Thaxel said. We leave in 8 days to arrive on time. You must give us your answer in 6 days. Captain Morrison stood up. We need time to discuss this with our superiors on Earth. Commander Thaxel also stood, signaling that the meeting was over. 6 days, Jake Martinez. The choice is yours alone. No other human can make this decision for you. As they prepared to leave, the female council member spoke once more. Remember, Kethivore, the galaxy watches those who prove themselves worthy. Many species will be curious about the humans who produced a warrior capable of defeating our champion. Some will respect you for this, others will see you as a threat. Walking back to their shuttle, Jake felt like he was carrying the weight of 4 billion people on his shoulders. Ambassador Carter walked beside him, looking thoughtful. Sergeant, she said quietly, I know this is not what you signed up for when you became a Marine. Jake nodded. No, ma'am, it definitely was not. But, she continued, maybe that is exactly why you are the right person for the job. Jake hoped she was right, because in 6 days, he would have to make the biggest decision in human history. Jake sat in his quarters staring at the wall. It had been 3 days since the Zephyrians gave him 6 days to decide about the Grand Assembly. He had 3 days left, and he still did not know what to do. The ship's communication system had been busy for the past 2 days. Captain Morrison was talking to Earth Command every few hours. Messages flew back and forth between the USS Liberty and the highest levels of human government. Everyone wanted to know what Jake Martinez would decide. A knock came at his door. Come in, Jake said. Dr. Williams entered carrying a large stack of files and her tablet. She looked tired but determined. Jake, we need to talk about what you would face at the Grand Assembly. Jake gestured to his desk chair. Dr. Williams, I appreciate all the work you are doing, but I am not sure I am the right person for this job. Maybe you are not, she said, sitting down and opening her first file. But you are the only person the galaxy will listen to right now, so we need to make sure you are ready. Over the next hour, Dr. Williams explained what she had learned about the Grand Assembly. It was held on a planet called Nexus Prime, which belonged to no single species. The planet existed only to host meetings between different alien civilizations. There are 437 known intelligent species in this part of the galaxy, she said, showing Jake pictures on her tablet. Some are friendly to newcomers, others are not. Jake looked at the images. Some aliens looked almost human, while others were so strange, he could not figure out which end was the head. How am I supposed to talk to things that look like walking crystals or floating gas clouds? Translation technology, Dr. Williams said. Every species has developed ways to communicate with others. The real challenge is not language. It is understanding their cultures and motivations. She showed him more files. The Crystal Alliance, for example, values logic and efficiency above everything else. They think emotions are weaknesses. If you get angry or upset during negotiations, they will dismiss everything you say. Jake nodded, trying to remember. What about the others? The Void Touched are ancient. They have been spacefaring for over 10,000 years. They rarely speak, and when they do, other species listen very carefully. No one knows much about them, but they seem to respect strength and wisdom. Dr. Williams pulled out another file. Then there are the younger species, like the Kepler Commonwealth and the Solar Federation. They might be more willing to work with humanity because they remember what it was like to be new to galactic politics. Jake's head was starting to hurt. Dr. Williams, this is too much. I know how to be a soldier. I know how to follow orders and protect people. I do not know how to negotiate with 400 different alien species. Dr. Williams closed her files and looked at Jake directly. Maybe that is exactly what makes you perfect for this job. Before Jake could ask what she meant, another knock came at the door. This time it was Lieutenant Amy Foster, the ship's intelligence officer. She was carrying her own stack of papers. Sergeant Martinez, she said, I have been analyzing the territorial disputes that might come up at the assembly. We need to discuss humanity's expansion plans. Amy spread out a star map on Jake's small table. Red dots marked systems where humans wanted to build colonies. Yellow dots showed systems claimed by alien species. There were a lot of overlapping colors. The biggest problem is the Proxima system, Amy explained. We have already sent survey ships there and started planning a colony. But the Crystal Alliance claims they discovered it first and have mining rights. Jake studied the map. What do the crystals want with Proxima? Rare metals for their technology, Amy said. But Jake, Proxima is perfect for human colonization. Good planets, stable star, close to Earth. If we lose Proxima, our expansion plans get set back by decades. She pointed to other systems on the map. The Wolf Cluster has the same problem with the void touched. The Titan system is disputed by 3 different species. Everywhere we want to go, someone else was there first. Jake felt the weight of responsibility, getting heavier. So if I mess up at this assembly, humanity stays trapped in our own solar system. Not trapped, Amy said, but limited. We would have to accept whatever scraps the older species decide to give us. Over the next 2 days, Jake met with every expert on the ship. The ship's doctor explained alien biology so Jake would not accidentally insult someone by offering to shake a hand they did not have. The engineer taught him about the different technologies various species used, so he could understand what they might want to trade. Captain Morrison briefed him on human military capabilities. If negotiations fail and someone decides to attack Earth, this is what we can defend ourselves with, the captain said, showing Jake classified weapons specifications. Danny Rodriguez spent hours with Jake, helping him practice staying calm under pressure. Remember, Danny said, you have been in combat situations before. You know how to think clearly when everything goes crazy. This is just a different kind of battle. On the 5th day, Jake made his decision. He found Captain Morrison in the Seek ship's briefing room talking to Earth Command on the communication screen. Captain, Jake said, I will do it. Captain Morrison looked relieved. Are you sure, Sergeant? Jake nodded. I am not sure I can succeed, but Dr. Williams is right. I am the only person the galaxy is willing to listen to right now. If I do not try, humanity might never get another chance like this. The next morning, Jake packed his few belongings and prepared to transfer to the Zephyrian ship. The entire crew of the USS Liberty gathered to see him off. Ambassador Carter shook his hand. Sergeant, she said, I know we got off to a rough start, but I believe you can do this. You have something most diplomats never develop. What is that? Jake asked. Honest instincts, she replied. When you see a problem, you act to solve it. Do not lose that quality, even when you are sitting with the most powerful beings in the galaxy. As Jake walked toward the airlock that would take him to the Zephyrian ship, Danny Rodriguez called out to him. Hey, Jake, Danny said with a grin. Try not to choke any more alien commanders. Jake laughed. I will do my best. But as he stepped through the airlock and onto the alien ship that would take him to Nexus Prime, Jake wondered if his instincts would be enough to navigate the most complex political situation in galactic history. In 3 days, he would find out. Nexus Prime was unlike any world Jake had ever seen. The entire planet was one massive city, built by dozens of different alien species over thousands of years. Buildings twisted into impossible shapes, some floating in the air while others burrowed deep underground. Ships from hundreds of different worlds filled the sky like a swarm of metal insects. Jake stood on the observation deck of the Zephyrian transport, watching the planet grow larger as they approached. Commander Thaxel stood beside him, pointing out different sections of the city. "That crystal spire belongs to the Crystal Alliance," the commander said. "The floating spheres are void-touched structures, and that massive dome in the center is the assembly hall, where you will speak for humanity." Jake's stomach tightened. Even from space, the assembly hall looked enormous. "How many beings will be there?" "Representatives from 437 species," Commander Thaxel replied. "Some will bring advisors and guards, perhaps 3,000 individuals in total. 3,000 aliens, all watching him speak for the human race." Jake tried not to think about it too much. The landing process took 2 hours. Jake had to wear a special breathing mask because Nexus Prime's atmosphere was different from Earth's. Commander Thaxel led him through corridors filled with aliens of every size and shape imaginable. Some looked almost human, while others defied description. Jake saw beings made of living crystal, creatures that floated like jellyfish and things that looked like walking trees. All of them stared at him as he passed. Word had spread quickly that the human who defeated a Zephyrian champion was attending the assembly. The assembly hall was even more impressive inside than outside. The ceiling disappeared into darkness high above. Seats were arranged in a massive circle, with each species having their own section designed for their specific needs. Some seats were filled with water for aquatic species. Others glowed with heat for beings that needed high temperatures. Jake's seat was in the section reserved for new species, between a group of insect-like creatures and some aliens that looked like living metal. A translation device had been built into his chair, allowing him to understand any language spoken in the hall. The assembly began with formal introductions. Species after species stood and announced their presence. When Jake's turn came, he stood and spoke clearly into the translation system. "I am Jake Martinez, representing humanity of the planet Earth. We come seeking peaceful relations and fair territory agreements with all species." A low murmur went through the hall. Many aliens leaned forward to get a better look at the human, who had earned Zephyrian respect. The first day was mostly speeches and formal presentations. Jake listened carefully, trying to understand the complex relationships between different species. Some were allies, others were rivals, and a few seemed to hate each other completely. On the second day, the territorial disputes began. The Crystal Alliance stood first, their representative looking like a living diamond sculpture. "We claim prior discovery rights to 17 star systems, including the one humans call Proxima," the Crystal representative announced. "Our mining operations have priority over any colonization attempts." Jake felt his heart sink. Proxima was crucial for human expansion plans. He waited for his turn to speak, then stood up. "Honored Crystal Alliance," Jake said. "Humanity recognizes your mining rights. But Proxima has 3 planets suitable for life. Could we perhaps share the system? You mine the asteroids and dead worlds, while we colonize the living planets?" The Crystal representative's body flashed different colors, which Jake's briefings had told him meant they were thinking. "This proposal has logical merit," they finally said. "We accept joint administration of the Proxima system." Jake sat down, surprised that his first negotiation had worked. Several other species made similar offers for disputed territories. Jake's approach was simple: find ways for everyone to get what they needed without taking everything from anyone. On the third day, things got more complicated. A species called the Warpack challenged humanity's right to expand at all. "These humans are dangerous," their leader growled through the translation system. "They defeated our Zephyrian allies through trickery. They will spread like a disease across the galaxy." Jake stood to respond, but before he could speak, something unexpected happened. A section of the hall that had been empty suddenly filled with beings Jake had never seen before. They looked ancient, with pale skin that seemed to glow from within. "The void touched speak," announced the assembly moderator, a floating creature, covered in tentacles. One of the ancient beings rose slowly. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. For 10,000 years we have watched the young species of this galaxy, the void-touched said. We have seen them fight, trade, and grow. Most disappoint us with their greed and violence. The entire hall went silent. Jake had been told that the void-touched almost never spoke at these gatherings, but occasionally, the ancient being continued. A species emerges that shows promise. The humans have demonstrated 3 qualities we value: strength in combat, wisdom in negotiation, and honesty in communication. Jake felt every eye in the hall turn toward him. We have decided, the void-touched announced, to sponsor humanity's entry into the Galactic Council. Furthermore, we grant them access to the Wolf Star cluster, which we have protected for millennia. The hall erupted in surprised chatter. Species that had been dismissing humanity suddenly looked very interested in making deals. The Warpack leader tried to object, but other species quickly shouted him down. If the void-touched supported humanity, opposing them would be political suicide. Commander Thaxel stood in the Zephyrian section. The Zephyrian Collective seconds this proposal, he announced. We also offer humanity membership in our Mutual Defense Pact. Over the next hour, dozens of species offered trade agreements, territorial exchanges, and alliance proposals. Jake found himself saying yes to beneficial deals and politely declining others. When the assembly ended, Jake had secured not just humanity's expansion rights, but their position as a respected member of the galactic community. As he prepared to return to the USS Liberty, the void-touched representative approached him. You did well, young human, the ancient being said. Your species shows promise. Do not let power corrupt that honesty. Jake nodded. I will do my best to remember that. 6 months later, Jake stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty as they approached humanity's first colony in the Proxima system. He still wore his Marine Sergeant stripes, even though he now also carried the title of Human Cultural Liaison to the Galactic Council. So, Captain Morrison said with a smile, how does it feel to be the most famous Marine in human history? Jake watched the new colony taking shape on the planet below. Ask me in a few years, Captain. I have a feeling this is just the beginning.